any AV difficulties here like Lisa did. The reason I'm up here is because over time, a number of people have said, David, I'd love to journal, but I just can't get started. I mean, every time I try to get started, it seems like I get writer's block or mental block or something like that. And that's been said to me a number of times. And being who I am, I said, well, I've done some journaling myself and it was successful. Maybe I can share that with you. And so if you say something like that, be warned, you may end up on a podium giving a presentation. So there lies the answer. And so here we are today. My plan here is to kind of run through this quickly and then give us a chance to actually get some hands-on. I'm a person who believes very much that theory and hype and education is one thing, but nothing replaces actually hands-on doing. So you all willing to do that?
Yes.
Nobody is going to be embarrassed today. Nobody's going to be disclosed today. It's absolutely private. Okay, so nobody needs to start panicking, other than how long I'm going to be up here. Okay, so let's go. Okay. I did actually a little bit of work in this, and there's a lot of science behind journaling. If you read that last line down there, maybe you all can't read it. Maybe I'm not very good at this, with 2-point type, but that says from positivepsychology.com, they noted 83 benefits from journaling. So it's proven, it's not theory. And the reason I put that picture of that DNA at the top is because when you change your thoughts, you literally change your molecules, your atoms, and your DNA. So this is not a small deal. I think we know that guy, and that's definitely not me, but he said how many times? He said to people you cannot heal anything that you do not own. And journaling is a really great way of really owning stuff. Now, if you're like me, you talk to yourself all the time. I've got a monkey mind, can't shut it off. Even when I'm asleep, I still don't think it's shut off. And I'm always talking to myself or walking in the woods. It does not create the same effect as journaling. There's something about writing it, owning it, feeling it, of that writing process that's not just the same as talking to yourself. So it really is different. And obviously I jumped the gun here, but that lady, the psychologist Barbara Markway, said there's simply no better way to learn about your thought processes than to write them down. So if it sounds like I'm making a case for this, and I'm not the president of the Evansville Journaling Club, this is simply what the research told me when I did a little bit of research on it. Anybody knows me knows that would sound like me, radical transparency. That first line up there says journaling is your safe place. Look, I want everybody to feel that. This is not with your spouse, your kids, your friends, or even your therapist. Journaling is a very private thing, and it's also a very safe thing. You're not going to be showing this to anybody. It's between you and your version of who you think of as the divine. Lines there talk about radical honesty. You get to talk about your fears and insecurities, your angers, your resentments, your disappointments. How about what you perceive to be your shortcomings? I also think it's cool because you also get to honor the things you like about yourself, your skills, your accomplishments, and you get to laugh at yourself. I do that a lot, and I've got a lot to laugh at, believe me. But I love this. You get to turn your lies that you believe into sacred truths. And you can turn your pain into joys and self-acceptance. Now, I don't know if you're going to look like that dog there. Frankly, I wish I could look like that dog and jump that high, but to have that kind of freedom, to have that kind of exhilaration, to have that weight off of you, I mean, what a wonderful thing. And as I referred to earlier, a lot of people say, I just don't know how to start this. I get the pen, I get the paper, But it's like ready, set, pause, ready, set, what do I write? Ready, set, I don't know what to do. And I think that's why I'm doing this today. I got words up there if I just can't. I've tried this before. My writing sounds so stupid. And I believe that if you can talk, then you can begin. The only key there is giving yourself the permission to start. Okay? And I wrote down there in extremely small writing, I talked about my spouse. I should have said my ex-spouse to be technical. And it's a true inspiring story. And in the mid-70s when I was dating Sue, I showed up at her door one time and hi, and she says, hi, where's your car? She must have parked around the car. I said, well, I didn't drive. What do you mean? And I said, well, I ran over here. David, that's 4 miles. How could you put on a pair of shoes and run 4 miles? And she said, David, I could never do that. And she's convinced, David, I could never do that. This lady has completed 3 Boston marathons. And you know how she did it? She started. She started. And so if you're feeling stuck, I don't know where to start, David, I could never journal. We're going to try to get started today. Okay? How I got started, do we all have secrets? You've got to be joking. Really? Of course we've all got secrets. You know, things we hold in ourselves, things we believe about ourselves. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. Yada, yada, yada. You folks all know all of those words. I realized that there really were no secrets from the divine. I mean, this is sort of like a joke. Really? Really? You think that there's not those powers that don't really know who you are, David? All of your insecurities, all your fears, all your angers? Give me a break. So that was kind of gave me a little bit of an open door of knowing that there really weren't any secrets, just from people and just stuff I was holding in. So he gave me the permission. And I also believe that journaling comes from heart and not your head. It's not an intellectual exercise. You simply begin, this is how I'm really feeling now. And it starts there. Surrender to your truth. And the reason I got that guy looking like he finally feels like he's free is because it unleashes your power and your true freedom. And no, I did not forget words there. I wanted you to kind of think, how do you think that lady feels? I mean, you see her there outside with those beams of light in nature. If you see wings on her arms, does she feel like she is free and soaring and alive and vibrant and like the weight of the world is off of her? Mm-hmm. And I think that's why a person may consider journaling with all the other tools that we've been so wonderfully given by this organization, this church, and other people over time. And I think that's why a person might consider that might be one of the things you might want to add or consider adding to your repertoire. And the other thing, if you're like me, sometimes you just need a kick in the butt. And sometimes, you know, oh, I'm going to work out. I'm going to eat better. I'm going to drink more water. I'm going to do this. You know what? I'm kind of a poster child of I'm gonna. And what I found was sometimes if you just get another person to help hold you accountable, it really does help a lot. At least that's the way I am, and you may be the same way. Because I know for me, sometimes just getting started and then staying on that path has not always been my strong suit. So there we are. That's the end of my presentation. And well, sorry about that, Lisa. Pretty cool. I'm very good at this. Not really. I'm going to have, you got good arms? You don't have shoulder injuries or anything?
No.
Would you like one? No, come up here.
We're supposed to pick me.
Your hand, just hold this in your hand, hold it out. Now.
That's
No,
sort
no,
of
no, no.
heavy.
I know. It's supposed to be.
Okay.
Well, hold it out, don't be a baby.
That's as far as I can hurt it out. Without it hurting me.
It's supposed to hurt a little.
It is already hurting.
Do we have anybody else up here who cannot whine this much? And then my next presentation.
I'm
next-
even more whiny, so no.
Oh, God.
This
I
is
mean,
the
oh,
best
God.
I can do without
Oh,
hurting
thank God.
myself.
I believe that when we carry our stuff that's inside of us, it's like carrying this around. You know, and at some point it's heavy on us. You know, it just drags us down. And I likened it to carrying this thing today. And actually this is distilled water, and it's something I drink for a reason with some other stuff in it.
I'll take curtain number 2.
No, she's definitely not being paid. And so I think that this is what all of us do every day. And it doesn't matter. Everybody has their own story. They've got their own drama, their own feelings, their own weights. And I find, and of course Margot has a modality that deals with those, and I do a modality that deals with those, and there's a lot of modalities. I honestly resonate with those words, and that lady said, there's just maybe not, it's a very good tool to write something down. It's not the same as thinking about, it's not the same as walking in Wesselman Park, or walking like me, pace the house like a lion in a cage, and talking to myself. I'm sure I even talk to myself all night. But I found a tremendous freedom, and a tremendous release, and a tremendous great honesty when I gave myself permission to put that pen to paper. It was just, and you know what's really funny is I started doing that and think, I don't know where to start, I don't know where to begin. Holy crap, it was like 12 pages later. It's like when I opened that valve and I gave my permission to let it out, it was so freeing and so wonderful. And a lot of what I was feeling was so heavy really was now beginning to come out. So we are going to, I do not want to do just me up here. That's not that interesting, I promise you.
Well, mine done.
Well, you didn't
If
do
she
that well.
promises to journal, can she put that down?
Fine.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. You said it's supposed to hurt. I know. You guys all got your journals or something, if you can. I'm gonna you just be curious, how many of you feel comfortable journal? Do you? Okay. Not everybody does. So if you were going to journal today, and look, I know we're in a crowd, and I get that, and it's artificial. I think journaling is by nature, it's private. It's with you and your source, your divine only. It's not for anybody else's eyes or ears or feelings or their judgments. And I know somebody asked me, David, what if somebody would find this? What if I'd be in a car wreck and somebody would read this? Holy cow, I don't want that. I don't want them to read my stuff either. I don't know that anybody said that this is a diary or you're keeping, you know, something that you have to keep. I think the key to this is that you are letting it out. You're giving it a voice. You are owning it. This is how I really feel. I'm angry. No, I'm real angry, or I'm upset. Or why doesn't this happen? Why do bad things always happen to me? I mean, you know, just letting what out is ever inside you. After you're done, tear it up, shred it, burn it. But I think if you're using that as an excuse of fear that somebody's going to read this, I don't think that has to be a valid reason for you. I think you can still journal. So, guys, if you're going to start doing that now, and I know we're in public, and I know we're in a group, and I know it's artificial that way, but would you be able to, do you think, with whatever I said or whatever was given to you today, would it be any easier for you, or would we kind of like to, would somebody here maybe just give me one sentence or one thing that you might be, not have to be personal at all, but just to, I know when I start, sometimes I'll say, God, I know that you are in this room with me, and I know that you know it all. So there are no secrets. Let's cut the bull. There's no secrets here of how I feel. And right now, I'm uncomfortable. No, actually, I'm pretty upset. And my upset right now is because yada, 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 and it just starts. And all of a sudden, that little crack just keeps opening up and opening up. And I'm very upset this happened to me at work. This person said this at me. You know, this really hurt my feelings. Let me tell you exactly what's at me. So all of a sudden, you're just really, it just feels so freeing and so wonderful. Do you all think that you could do that?
Yes.
Because what I wanted to do for you today was not just come up here. I'm not Wayne Newton. This is not Las Vegas. It's not a show. I wanted to give you maybe the gift of saying, first of all, you know, wow, you know, that really might be useful to me in my life. And secondly, I didn't know how to get started before, or there were things holding me back. And I hope that maybe we address those things today. So you'd say, well, I've kind of got a method to the madness now, to go in a room by myself, get my cup of warm tea, comfortably positioned by myself. I feel safe. And I want to have a conversation with God. I want to have this conversation. I've got some stuff to say. Got some stuff to say. And I want to say it. Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering if you might feel comfortable sharing with us what your personal practice around journaling is. Like, oh, I set aside 10 minutes every day, or I do once a week, or whatever. You know, not real intimate details, but how do you work your own practice with journaling?
Yeah. I pretty much have failed miserably at all of it. That's the truth. Whether it's my meditation, my reading, my getting on the inversion board, I'm pretty much the poster child of not doing what I know to do, Julie. That's the naked truth. But I'm really aiming to change that around. I really am, not just theoretically. But I guess a person has to find what works for them. Many times I like to go to bed at a place that's not so attached to my life as a human being on this planet. So I sleep better sometimes. I've got a clearer mind before I go to bed. But I don't think that's right for anybody necessarily. I don't know that there's a time or a place. I guess we all have to decide whether or not that a piece of those 24 hours that we are all given is worthy of some self-care, whatever that self-care is. And I don't mean to evade your question, but the truth is, I'm not very good. I haven't been very good about doing that, but I can tell you this, the times I've done it, when I was, and usually I do something when there's an emergency. Imagine that. But when I've done it, oh my God, it was wonderful. I got to absolutely get it off my chest. I wrote more than Hemingway, and it was, imagine yourself being crushed by a boa constrictor, and all of that is in you, and it's just, you don't, and to let that out, to give it a voice, to give it honesty and real feelings, it is so cathartic and so freeing. I just can't recommend it enough. And actually the modality that I do, the EFT, among all these other ones, it always begins with even though I'm very angry, even though I'm too short, I'm too tall, I'm too thin, I'm too this, I'm too that. I mean, it just goes on and on. We've all got that. Even though I'm really angry, even though I feel stuck in my job, even though people don't like me, even though people love me too much. It doesn't matter. But to own that, then is a springboard to having some kind of a conversation about it. And I think from that can really come real deep soul level healing and physical changes in our body. I saw a person cured, I don't know about the word cured, alleviated from a migraine headache he had for 3 years to the point of having to sell his business. When he finally got real and admitted what was really on his mind, which took a lot, it was gone. He'd been to 3 doctors. So I think this getting real is not just some trite, feel good, more, vernacular of the hooey-wooey. I think to get that real with yourself, give yourself that permission. And then to love it. That's okay. It's really okay. So, did I even remotely answer your question?
Oh, I appreciate, yeah, how you shared what you've been going through with journaling.
It worked. It worked. It worked. I don't know about journaling, but one time I could not figure out my life, and I had a little bit of let me say, we all know Neil Donald Walsh, we all know these names, and wrote all those books, Conversations with God. Well, I had a private conversation with God. It required me to close the windows for fear that the police would call, the neighbors would call the police. We had a real conversation. It was sort of a verbal journaling, if you will. And let me tell you that nothing was held back. Nothing. I did. This is so fun. I'm such a goof. I lost my voice for 2 days. I yelled so loud and so hard for so long, I damaged my vocal cords. And so I don't recommend it. But God, it felt so real and so honest, and I was so upset and so confused and so angry. I needed to have a conversation, and we're having one now. And so it was so cathartic. And I think that's all that journaling is. And the nice thing is that after you get that off of you, tear it up, burn it, shred it, whatever you need to do with it. I am so hoping that this helped.
Yeah.
Did it?
Mm-hmm.
Y'all could now go home and do your little journaling. Does anybody have a comment or question or anything else? I'll go. Can I go with her first? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I always thought of journaling as like dear diary, like making some kind of a record that I would go back to. I never really thought about it as just being a dump, And I have all these ego thoughts, things that get under my skin, and I get down in a ego crabbiness, and then I get mad at myself because I'm supposed to be higher, and I have all this stuff. It would be nice just to dump it on some paper and go there.
Can you all hear her?
I think
Thank you so much. I think that was perfect. I mean, you ought to come up here. She said, I've got all this stuff, and I got to dump it off, and like you said, not a diary. I mean, gosh, thank you so much for that, Margot. I think that's exactly what it is. It's really giving our permission to be real. Oh, I'm kind. I love little animals. I walked a lady across the street. I mean, we all want to be those lofty things, those egotistical things. I'm such a nice person. How about I'm not good enough? Why am I like this? Why can't I get a job? Why can't I this? I mean, we all wear those things too. Those things that we really don't want anybody else to know is the truth. And yet we know it's known. We're the ones who are not accepting it. So what we're doing here is accepting those things that we think are dark. And it's really a wonderful gateway to releasing that and to owning some of it. Say, oh, look at me. Hell, I'm cooler than what I thought. I'm more deserving of love and acceptance than what I thought. Margot, thank you so much. Yes, sir.
It's speaking of what she said about dumping on a piece of paper, what I learned, it's basically like a documentary. You can actually record it. At the time you're going through something, you might not have the time and the mental to go ahead and write it down, but take it and put it on a video camera, and so you can, whenever you reminded yourself, you go back to this point in time and just write it out. That's what I thought of. I record myself at that time, like on a video camera, just hold it, put it, it's like my grandmother called it a time capsule.
Okay.
And put it in a time capsule, bury it. So it's completely gone out of your life, but that chunk is gone out of your life. But when you go back, you look at it, you look at this, what happened, you can talk about it. It's like a little testimony. You're just going on with your life, but you can actually use that. That's what I do. But like I said, I mean, that's also, I wanted to ask you, if that can actually be used as a, I think as a documentary, basically.
Okay, like a personal documentary.
Yeah, like a piece of personal documentary.
Sure, sure. If I heard what you just said, or if I understood, and I hope I did, is that this personal documentary is you giving a voice as to what's going on and how I feel.
Yes.
And you're recording it, you're owning it.
Yes.
You're owning this. This is how I feel.
Yes.
Right.
You're not holding on to it, you're letting it go. But it's see, instead of just writing it out, because you're not gonna be able to write it out at that point in time. Something bad can happen. You have a bad breakup. You can have anything going on. You're not gonna sit there and just write it out in the diary at that point in time. But if you just get out and you record it, just talking about it, you're getting it off your chest. I mean, you might not be there, she might not be there, but you get to talk. You're talking to yourself and you're recording it, but you take that video camera, you put it in it and you push it away.
Sure.
That chapter is gone out your life. But you
Right.
look at the stuff, you look at the steps you're going on.
Right.
It's like a little documentary. That's-
Sure.
I would like to do that.
Yeah, yeah, well, thank you. Another good
Video
idea.
journaling.
Yeah, you bet,
Yeah.
video journeys, that's what it's
Time
called.
capsule is a great idea, what a name. Time
Yeah,
capsule.
yeah.
That ought to be something like, Twitter or something like that,
Yeah.
time capsule. You can anonymously put up there, I tell you something, and probably somebody else is feeling the same thing, what, we probably just thought of $1 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, hon.
I'm just saying, wouldn't it be fun to anonymously do that?
So I'm ready for you.
I've never had a problem with writing. I remember being about 5 years old and seeing my brothers write, you know, older. And so I thought, I want to write like that. So I would scribble some words and say, what does this say? And I said, nothing. It's like, so I scribbled some more. And they said nothing. And I said, how can I make it say something? And they said, you have to learn words. I remember there was a Shell gas station across the street. And so I practiced writing Shell until I got that right. And then I found something else and practiced writing that. And when I was in my early 20s, I was in a really emotionally and verbally bad relationship. And I had my son, he was only 2 months old, and he was real sick, and they kept telling me that there was nothing wrong with him. Well, he couldn't swallow, he couldn't eat, he was in pain, and so I just kept taking him to all these doctors. And when I was in this relationship, there was this thing that was happening with me that's like, is this all there is? You know? And when I would say something to my ex about it, he would say, you're just crazy, you know? So I had this baby that was going to die, they told me he was gonna die, and I couldn't handle that. And so I started journaling. It's like, he can't die, because I cannot survive this. And things that came back to me, like my mom would say, through pain you receive gold, and I will, well, it must be when you're dead, because I'm not finding any happiness living. Anyway, this journey went on, and he finally convinced me that I had lost my mind. And, I mean, I was thinking of being about poison. I had like 1 ounce of sanity left, like there's something wrong. And so I did go to that therapist. And then we were talking, and he said, well, how are you dealing with it? I said, I'm writing it. And he said, I'm gonna say one thing, that you're not, start telling me. You never know what you get. journaling stage. And so throughout my life, any crisis situation, you know, I have written about it. And when I left California, I had binders and binders full of journals, and I burned them all. And when I'm done with that, burn them. What I have a problem with now is because I used that writing to express how I actually felt, and sometimes it wasn't really nice, but it was just the relationship I had with me. It's like, this really sucks. I hate it, or I hate them, and I wish they would burn in hell, or whatever, you know? But through the process, I can express how I feel. I allow myself to have feelings and everything. What I have a hard time now with is because I can do that. I don't want to journal. You know, I'm having a hard time journaling about everyday life, you know? And so I do write these letters to different people. I write about 4 a week, and I am expressing, you know, how I feel, but it's like, you know, well, yeah, the pipe burst today, and that was real frustrating, but the manager came and told me of this guy that fixed it, blah, blah, blah. You know, so it's like, I'm venting, but I'm showing that I resolved the issue and everything. So I don't know if it's because I do that I don't feel the need to journal, or I don't know where I'm at with it.
It sounds like it really served you well
Oh, yeah.
at a time in your life.
Many times.
To get real, to express, this is how I really feel, I need to get this out. And the doctor, your therapist said if you had not, it may be really detrimental to you. Did I hear you correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Look, I am not a one-size-fits-all person at all, makes it the exact opposite. I think every human being's got to find the ways and the tools and the timing that is right for them. So I'll be the last person to say this is a panacea. I'm simply saying this is something that I have found has been a pretty easy, inexpensive way of getting real with yourself. And I would respectfully say there's no drugs or alcohol or distractions of any kind that's ever going to actually heal that. You know, you've just got to really deal with what's really going on inside you. You said something I thought was really wonderful, and that was, you said, yeah, I expressed this is how I really feel. And you said, I wasn't that nice. Is that what you said? You said, you know what? I just view that as a beginning point. It's not that you're not nice, but I thought starting there would then lead you, you know, to what this is really about, who you really are. So, I mean, thank you for sharing that. I do not want this to run into dinner or nightfall. So, guys, if we are done, thanks for your time and attention. Young lady, it's good to see you. And I'm going to conclude here. I don't have to do anything else, do I?
Nope.
Good. And I will not call you again for water carrying.
Thank you, David.